My dad used to always say, Evelyn, when are you going to get your PhD? You got your bachelor's. Now you got your master's. It's time to get the PhD now. When are you going to get your PhD? I never got a PhD. My name is Evelyn, and welcome to my channel, Class with Prof. Eve. I am a college professor. I teach sociology at a 2-year college in my town. I've also taught at 4-year universities. In this video, I want to talk to you about how a PhD became superfluous for me. It became completely unnecessary because of things that I decided to do in my own life that fulfilled all of the things that would have come along with a PhD, in my opinion. So I want to first start with the question of why a PhD in the first place. And I think that people should think really strongly about this, take a lot of time and really think about, why do I want to pursue a PhD? Typically that involves completing a bachelor's degree, that's 4 years minimum. A master's degree, if that's not connected to your PhD program, that's going to be 2 years of coursework, and then usually there's an exam or a thesis that you have to write. So your master's could end up being 4 years, 6 years, however long it takes you to complete that exam or thesis. For me, it took me 2 years to complete my coursework and another 2 years to complete my thesis, where I had to carry out a research study. So completing those 2 levels then takes you to the level of PhD if you want to pursue, the final academic degree. So that's a huge investment already. And then in PhD programs, they are long-term. I don't think that I am familiar with a PhD program that's 4 years or less. Usually people are in PhD programs for 5+ years, and the average is about 7 years. So the amount of time that you are spending in college, right, through that process of a PhD is extremely significant. And during that time, you may get a graduate assistant position or, some sort of job on campus that might be related to what you want to pursue career-wise, but many times it's not. It's just something to pay the bills, and usually the pay is pretty low. And so you're absent from the workforce, you're absent from work experience during that time as well for most people. And that's why a 2-year degree actually has a higher return, because folks are able to go in, complete their 2-year degrees, and then go into the workforce. And so they're accumulating much more work experience than someone who was in a PhD program. So really think about that. Why do I want to pursue a PhD in the first place? In the society in which I live, the United States, prestige matters more than a lot of things. Prestige sometimes matters more than money. It matters more than your own personal will and desire. And I think that plays a big role in a lot of the reasons that people pursue a PhD, because it is the highest academic degree that you could achieve. It's the highest degree that you could achieve. And so it's looked at like this really brilliant thing. And it is great. Like I'm not here to say that a PhD is a complete waste of time. No one should do it. It's useless. That's not at all what I'm saying. I just don't think that a PhD is for everyone. And I think that a lot of people pursuing PhDs may have regrets later on if they're not absolutely certain of their why. Why am I doing this? Am I doing this because this is a passion of mine? Or am I doing this because I get to add that title to my name, and people are going to think of me as this really smart, brilliant person? Let's be honest about that. PhDs can be really valuable if you are pursuing a specific type of career. For example, if you want to be a professor at a 4-year university, you're probably going to need that PhD. It's going to be a requirement in most cases. If you want some sort of administrative position in education, something like a superintendent of a school district, or a president of a university, or president of a college. Those individuals tend to have PhDs, even though that it's not, it's not always a required degree for those positions. Most people that hold those positions do have PhDs, right? A lot of directors, deans, and things like that within educational settings tend to have PhDs. So if that is the particular route that you wish to go, then it seems like it would maybe make a lot of sense for you to pursue a PhD. But if you want to work outside of education and run a nonprofit, or be an author, or what else? Be a professional coach or something, all these different things that you could do. You don't need a PhD for that. You just don't. And so really think about your why. Why am I pursuing this degree in the first place? So for me, being in education for all of my life, essentially, I went through all of my schooling through high school, and then went into college at the age of 18. I worked on campus my entire college experience, and then I took a job at the college that I'm currently working at. So I've literally been in academia pretty much my entire life, and I've never had a full-time job outside of academia. So I've had a lot of time to observe the experiences and the benefits of having a PhD from the people that have them. And that's why I can speak confidently about what I'm saying in this video. I have been on the panels with people with PhDs. I'm invited to speak all the time. I have a speaking engagement coming up that I'm really excited about, and I definitely plan to film a lot to share on this channel and on my other social media pages as well. So look out for that announcement. It's a very exciting speaking opportunity, but it's one of many that I've been able to have. And these are people contacting me. I get opportunities all the time, and I'm just being real. Like, I get opportunities all the time to do different things, to speak, to write books, to partner, on some project. Like, all these different things come to me all the time. And that's because I've established myself as a person that is knowledgeable, that is experienced, and that has value and something to contribute. And you don't need to have a PhD for that to be the case. Okay? So I've always enjoyed doing research, for example. And one thing that I was concerned about when I decided to teach predominantly at the 2-year college level is that I wouldn't be able to research. But that idea was quickly debunked, because so many people at my college, so many people at other 2-year colleges have written books, actually, and do all sorts of research. And remember, research isn't just studying something to write some academic article. Research is, climate surveys at your workplace or at your institution. You put together a survey to ask employees about their experiences. How do you feel about this workplace? Do you feel isolated? Do you feel like you are a part of the community? What things would you improve? And then you get that data and you analyze it and try to find patterns and themes and develop a report that you could give to an administrator or share with other people in that space. That's research. Right? A lot of us, we do research actually all the time, right? A lot of folks are kind of everyday researchers, right? You're like, what's that story, that news story? Let me dig into that and see the background. Let me see what happened with this case. How is this celebrity doing? A lot of folks are researchers, okay? So research can include a lot of things. So I've always enjoyed digging for more information, discovering new things, uncovering different perspectives, and all of that. So I really wanted to continue to do that, even though I decided to teach at the 2-year college level, where it's not a requirement to do research. It's not a requirement to publish in scholarly journals either at most 2-year colleges. And so I still wanted to do that, and I wanted it to be welcome, and I didn't want any limitations to it in that space. And again, I realized that it was quite easy to pursue my research interests at my college, at my 2-year institution. And also the fact that so many other faculty members and colleagues were doing the same thing. We're doing all kinds of different research. And so, you can do research at a 2-year institution. You can do research with a bachelor's degree or a master's degree. Research that's really important. I'm talking to one of my classes this semester, my social problems class actually, about activists as researchers. So one thing about me that I haven't talked about a lot on this channel, but I have been a part of a few different major African or Black organizations, revolutionary organizations, international organizations in my life. And I've held top positions in most of those organizations as a cadre, member, or as a member of like a strategy table or something like that, where there'd only be, 15 or 20 people or something like that. I've been in those positions in these organizations. So I've witnessed and also been a part of all kinds of different research. Activists produce so much research and data. This report that was released some time ago, but I saw something in the news about it recently, so I don't know if there's been some sort of update or something on the Ferguson report, Ferguson, Missouri. And if you recall, that was the place that Mike Brown was murdered by police in, and it was a huge story. It was a major impetus for the Black Lives Matter movement. But a lot of that information that they were able to obtain in that report came from activists on the ground there. When I led a chapter of Black Lives Matter in my town, we studied traffic stops. I don't know if our website is still up now, our WordPress website that we developed years ago, but it might still be up, or you can check it out. But we studied traffic stops, and we were able to write a report on the different types of traffic stops that were common in our town and how they were racially biased. That was just one instance of the different types of research that we did. I mean, we did a lot of research on the school districts in our town, on the activities of the county board in our town, on the jail construction projects in our town. I mean, activists produce so much valuable research, and actually people use a lot of activist research without giving credit to them. Okay, so I say all this to say that you can research without a degree. All you need is some knowledge and some connections and some motivation, and you can gather and report important data, into what you're looking for. So I continued to write. I always loved to write, and I loved research. And so once I realized that it would be no problem at all in my teaching career at the 2-year college level, then I continued to do that. I spoke in my previous video, what's it titled? You don't need to be a celebrity to get paid as an author, I think is the video. Check that out, and I'll try to remember to link it somewhere in this video or in the description box. But I talk about how I love to write, and so I wrote. I wasn't waiting for permission. I wasn't waiting for a PhD. I wasn't waiting for any validation. I wanted to write, so I wrote. I wrote about things that I was interested in. I've written all kinds of different articles, some that I never even published or shared, and some that I only shared on like my Facebook page or something, and others that were published, in publications like Truth Out and HuffPost. And so I wanted to do it, and I did it. My writing was accepted in many places, and in some places they wanted, to make some changes, or they, weren't interested, and that was all great. It was a learning experience for me, and I was able to develop and refine my practice. And so now at this point, I have all sorts of things that you can find online, all sorts of pieces that I've written and contributed to, and a lot of things that were written about me and the activities that I did with the organizations that I was involved in. So there's nothing that stops you from doing what you love to do and what you're passionate about if you want to do it. You don't have to wait for any social validation to do that. So I didn't wait. I did those things. And that absolutely gave me the grounding in the intellectual authority and experiential knowledge that was visible to other people. And so when I say I'm getting opportunities to do different things all the time, speaking engagements, writing things, joining on projects, that's because of the work that I've done over the course of several years, just putting my stuff out there without any expectations, just sharing things that interest me. things that I thought was useful, things that I looked into and researched. And I realized that there was an audience for that. There were people that were interested in that. And so now if someone finds me on social media, they can like Google me or something, and they may come across other things that I've written. And so they know, oh, okay, well, this person's a writer or they've published. And so maybe they would be interested in this opportunity. And I'm certain that's how those types of opportunities have come to me, is because I've established that. The last thing that I want to say about this, about the fact that a PhD is just superfluous for me, is that, at this point in my career, I've been teaching for nearly 20 years. I have 2 textbooks that I've written. I have an anthology that includes the essays of a lot of different authors, and I wrote intro summaries to connect the pieces, and I wrote the introduction and things like that. And then I have a full textbook, Introduction to Sociology textbook, that I wrote. I'm currently editing both of those right now, so there's going to be some new additions this year, which is really exciting. So I've done that. I've also written an ebook. I'm working on another project with a major publisher. Again, I've talked about this in the video on how to get paid as an author without being a celebrity or any of that other stuff. Like I said, I've been on panels with folks that have PhDs frequently, been a part of all sorts of events with people that have PhDs. Sometimes I was the only person that didn't have a PhD on the panel, and you wouldn't have been able to tell the difference. Like, people call me Dr. Reynolds all the time. Even when I correct them, I'm like, I don't have a PhD. You can just call me Professor Reynolds. But it happens all the time where people just assume I have a PhD. People assume I have a PhD. That's why I think that I need to go ahead and get one of those honorary PhDs, because people assume that I have one all the time already. So I'm like, go ahead and give it to me then. Go ahead and give me the honorary PhD. I'm not going to school for it, but you can give me an honorary PhD. And also, the last thing is pay. I was fortunate enough to work at a 2-year college that pays pretty well and that has great benefits. And even when I started, not long after I started, comparing the salaries of the professors with master's degrees, those with PhDs, professors at universities, my salary is comparable to many professors at 4-year universities. My salary is comparable to many folks with PhDs. And actually, in a lot of cases, I make more money than them. So that's not a factor either. So again, there was just no real justification for me to make that kind of commitment. And even now, I think about it, I'm like, maybe if I had a PhD, I would get like a slight salary increase at my current job, or people would see it and again, make those assumptions, those prestige-related assumptions about me, and give me even more opportunities. I'm sure that that's the case, but the fact of the matter is the amount of additional money that I would make if I had a PhD is not very much in the first place, and I end up making that additional money through my writing royalties, through speaking engagements, and through other, projects and investments that I have. So again, it's unnecessary in the way of pay as well. So I hope that this video was useful for someone, especially folks who are in academia or students who are working through college and deciding if you want to go on for an advanced degree. There are, of course, a lot of new things that you would learn, and a lot of new skills and things that you would gain pursuing higher level degrees like master's degrees and PhDs. So again, I think that there is value, but you really have to determine what that value is for you. And also, we're living in a changing world where the value of a college degree has declined so significantly over the years. If it's about money, you can get rich on YouTube. You can get rich on TikTok, just making TikTok videos. You can get rich selling t-shirts if it's just about money. You don't need to even go to college, for that. There, in the world of AI and all that, I have a video on AI coming soon too, so look out for that. The value of these kinds of degrees is really changing, because the fact of the matter is that in a lot of colleges and universities, they're not keeping up to pace with the changes in society and the changes in technology. They're not even keeping up with it. They're barely keeping up with it. So you're spending all this time in college gaining all these degrees and certifications. For what purpose? For what job are you expecting to have? Is that job going to be there in 5, 10, 15 years when you're done with that degree? Ask yourself these kinds of questions. And more power to all the folks that are pursuing PhDs and all the folks that have done that, but it's not for me. So thank you for watching, and I will see you all in my next video. Peace.